All right. Hello. This is Terrence Lamont. I'm on my page, of course. So sure you guys know who I am. So let me turn that down so we don't hear any more of those alerts. Okay. So this is a first. I don't normally go live from my own page. I did a couple of days ago, but that was to clear something up. But today is way different. Oh my God! Like you read, I hope you read that what we're doing is a new interview series. Never done this before. This is super duper incredible right now. I am really excited, and I think that
The tree behind you is cool.
what we're this possibility is just like amazing. So guys, if you're on, stay on for me, okay? Do not leave because this is going to be really great. So I have Zara. She is a relationship coach. She's a teacher at Harvard. I think she's a teaching fellow at Harvard, and she's moving up in that realm. But she's also a very intelligent, metaphysically minded person. She's really awesome. So that's the intro for Zara. You guys are going to really, really, I think, love hearing from her. I'm just going to ask her some questions. She's going to join me. It's going to be really awesome. I think we're going to have a great time. And then in addition to that, I want to just say some other things because if you've been following me for a little while or however long, whatever's been going on with you and me, and you know me maybe personally, maybe you don't, but We Are Valuable Media is my baby. I've been growing it for quite some time. I've had some really strong desires, some things that I knew that I could bring into manifestation, and doing this interview is one of them. So you can record this and come back and watch it later if you want to, or you can watch it live if you have the time. I don't know how long it's going to be. We're just going to be rocking out. So I'm going to bring her on in just a second, but thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for doing everything you've done. So of course, this is not We Are Valuable Media, but I knew I wouldn't have very many people watching live if I did it from We Are Valuable Media because we don't have the reach that we're looking for right now. And that's why we're creating a website. So really soon we're going to have wearevaluablemedia.com, and you guys are going to be able to come over there and see all the great content that you see on here. It's going to be just the same. It's just going to be expanded opportunity. So without further ado, I will bring on Zara, and we are going to have a rocking good time. So let me find her. I'm going to invite her over, and there she is. And here we go. So here comes Zara. All right. I'm drinking my life water because my life is changing. Maybe I should get life water to pay for our escapades, huh? So I'm sure she's coming on. She's coming. She's coming. She knows I'm.
Hello? Hey there.
Hi. How you doing? Hey,
Hey.
what's up?
I'm just making sure that, because usually it's funny because usually I have my video on landscape mode when I go live, so I'm trying to fix this so it looks correct for your audience. Just give me 1 second here. And do you mind turning up your volume a little bit, please?
I just did, but I can bring it closer to me. Is that better?
Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay, no, actually I can hear you fine. Can you hear me good?
Okay.
Everyone's good?
I think everything's good. If you can't hear us, let us know. But I think we're good. So I'm going to try to set my phone in a different way. So now that so now my speaker is free. Okay, so um, this is I'm super excited. Thank you very much, Zara, for doing this. And I gave you an introduction, but I'm sure that you know more about you than I do. So if you wanted to give maybe a kind of an introduction for yourself, that would be awesome, and then we can just get started.
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Zara. This is a great opportunity that I have to speak with you guys about just some insights that will come through as you ask me questions. I'm a life coach, and I focus on boundaries, relationships, and I mainly help people step into their power so that they can lead meaningfully. I mainly work with leaders, people that are extremely powerful. So what I do is basically most of my life I've studied psychology. I do research on mindfulness. I'm a teaching fellow. I love what I do. I love figuring out why people behave the way they behave, and in in addition to all of that, I also have a deep interest in spirituality and metaphysics and understanding energy and how energy actually works with our brain and our thoughts to create the world that we see in front of us. So it's such an awesome day today to be talking with Terrence about relationships and what health really means in relationships. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just writing down some notes here. Okay, so all right, so this is I've done this before. I'll just say that I've done this before with somebody who was a part of your WAVm Media team, and so it was a little bit different. So today we're doing just a straight interview, and so this is exciting. I feel like I was thinking earlier. I was like thinking about. I feel like Johnny Carson or Arsenio Hall or Oprah or somebody. You know, I'm like breaking new ground in my own mind. But at the same time, people are doing this, but people aren't going to do it like we are. So let's get after it. You ready? Okay, so describe um, a healthy relationship in your viewpoint.
A healthy relationship to me means that both people are in it to grow. Both people can meet each other where they are with an interest in health. So, what I mean by that is that when you're in a healthy relationship with a secure partner, a secure in terms of their attachment, that person will be less interested in creating a maladaptive narrative of your relationship or trying to use what's happening in the relationship to feed into their own story or their own narrative, but rather they'll be able to be present in the relationship and meet you exactly where you are at that moment, rather than use the relationship to feed into something else. They'll be able to simply be present in the relationship for what it is. So a lot of what I see is when we get into relationships, typically human beings tend to cognize the relationship as meaning something so much more than the relationship itself. We romanticize certain aspects of the relationship, we romanticize negative aspects of the relationship, and so every time we do that, we sort of create noise, what I like to call noise, because it gets in the
Right.
way. It
Yeah.
actually distracts you from actually meeting that person for who they are. You create an image, you create a story of who that person is, and you also use the relationship to create a story about yourself, to create meaning about yourself. And so that's why when relationships break down, we tend to typically people get really sad and frustrated because they've associated parts of who they are with the relationship. And if that relationship is now disintegrated, you feel like that must mean that I wasn't that person. I wasn't worthy. I wasn't worthwhile. I wasn't brilliant. I wasn't beautiful. And that's because you were really gaining your sense of worth through the relationship. You made the relationship mean something other than just the relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, absolutely. So when we're creating that story, it's obviously something that we can get caught up in, get lost in, and not know our true self, right? So what would you suggest there is that everybody's creating something, right? Everybody's even if the relationship is good, if it's a relationship that's beneficial, like I don't want to use the word good and bad, but if it's a relationship that's beneficial, that's honoring each other, you know, and then I'm going to throw a curveball later, but for right now, um, that's going to help each person to grow, right? So that's what you're suggesting is that whenever you're in a relationship, it should be causing there to be some kind of growth for the other person as well as you, right?
Yes, in a sense, what I'm getting at is that you have to assess the purpose of the relationship in the first place. Why are you entering this relationship in the first place? A lot of people enter into a relationship, kind of just stumble into it, out of a need for confirming their own value, or out of a need for companionship, out of a need for a distraction, out of a need for something other than growth. Most people kind of enter relationships, I think, ignorantly, through sense desires, like desires of your just, like lust, or feeling lonely, So I think that with any relationship, whether it's to grow or not, you have to be clear about what the purpose of the relationship is in the first place, so that whenever you're in the relationship and things are arising from the relationship, you can assess whether or not they're actually feeding the purpose of the relationship, or whether they're diverting away from that purpose.
Yes. So there's so many different kinds, right? I had a what's called an intuitive report that I've talked about before. A lot of my listeners will know what that is. I had an intuitive report that said that I was at the time, I was creating a lot of different things. I was like wide open. My vision was spectral, and my creative mind was always going.
Wow.
And I would get to a point where I would kind of like funnel down or bottleneck what I was creating. I would have all this stuff and all these possibilities, and then I would just squeeze it down and just kind of smash it, and I would just stop creating and just give up, kind of, because I was afraid that what I was creating was going to come to pass or something like that. Maybe I was just not sure about what I was creating. And the suggestion I received, which has been super valuable, and it's lasted with me for like 8 or 9 years that I've used it a lot, is that it said you have to create a seed thought, and it has to be a very clear seed thought for every creation that you're moving into. You have to determine what is your intention. And so that's what I hear you saying. But at the same time, it's like, it could be difficult when I have an intention or I have a desire, and maybe the other person does not have that same intention, or they did not have that same desire. So how do you see the integration process?
Do you mean that from the get-go you don't have the same intention, or
Well, I
throughout?
guess, yeah. I mean, so you have people who like sit down and they write their relation, what their person has to have, what kind of hair they have to have, what kind of job, and maybe their mom or their religion or whoever is telling them this is the type of person you have to be with, right? You have all this dogma and all this other stuff going on.
Right.
And so then you're coming in with a thought. You're coming in with something. And it's like, if I saw, and then, I mean, so who are these people, right? You meet people all the time, and you're like, oh, I'm attracted to that person. So then you think, well, maybe I could be in a relationship with them. So maybe you ask them out to coffee or something. But are you, at that time, you need to have a clear intention about relationship, or do you think it should grow in the process?
I think that if we're honest with who we are, finding that intention is easier. When we're honest about our own journey, basically like our own weaknesses, our own strengths, we're better able to see how that person fits into our life. If we overestimate our strengths or overestimate our weaknesses, we will basically not be able to do that in a less illusory way, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is really like, you have to be clear on what you desire, and you have to be clear on what you bring and what you need, and not be afraid of that, not be afraid of asking for what you desire, and not being afraid of your needs, like being very honest that those are needs that I have, and that's where I am at my journey right now, is that I have this need, and perhaps with being with you, you could help me with this, and I could help you with that. And it's really like, it's not a codependent thing, it's actually an interdependent thing. Because it's not like you have to be perfect right from the get-go, and you have to be perfect, and that's the only way I can be with you. It's that I'm being very clear and honest and transparent about who I am, what I desire, and what I need, so that we can have everything out into the open. and you can be clear and honest as well. And when everything is out in the open, we can actually agree. We can actually agree on helping each other with those things. It doesn't have to be some hidden thing. Oh my God, it's a secret. I can't tell you that I'm actually so afraid that you're going to leave me. You know, I can actually voice that to you, be vulnerable in that moment and say that, and actually gain strength in that moment from voicing that with you, and have the pleasure and the opportunity, first of all, give you the opportunity of stepping up to the plate to help me, and gain the pleasure of receiving that support. Because part of asking for something is actually allowing yourself to receive it. And if you're not honest about what you actually desire and what you need, you'd never get the pleasure of receiving that support. And you also never give the other person the opportunity to grow, to meet you there, to grow in being able to help you with that.
Yes. Wow. That's, yeah, definitely. Okay, great. That's super powerful. I love that. So here's the curveball. We're in a society right now where a lot of things are not as they have been before, right? So we have the thing that people keep, you know, some people say millennials, you know, they blame everything on millennials, right? And, you know, they say things are changing and it's because of the millennials, right? So, so one of the things that, I mean, I'm 39. I don't know how old you are. So I'm not a millennial, but I don't blame them for this particular thing because that would be stupid, which is polyamorous situations and relationships. Now, the way I look at it is that this is a return. This is kind of like, I look, you know, I think about, you know, evolution. And so I'm looking at the evolution of consciousness. And in the days, the Egyptian days, or days where kings ruled the world, you know, there were concubines, there were many wives for these leaders, spiritual leaders, or kings and queens. They all had all these relationships, if you want to call them that, but maybe they had one special one that they called their king or their queen, right? So now it seems like we're kind of returning back to the comfort of that. I have several friends who are in polyamorous relationships. How do you think that is beneficial? Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think that's it's monogamy is the way? What are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I think that people find ways to meet their needs, and certain people might feel like that's a way to meet needs that they have. And I personally have never been in a polyamorous relationship, and I don't have a desire to be in one. And I also don't think that it's my place to say really like my commentary on it, because honestly I don't really have an opinion on it. My opinion on it is really just that you should be really honest about, like, you should first and foremost be honest with yourself about why you're doing the things that you're doing. And that applies to everything. So if you want to be polyamorous, if you're thinking of being polyamorous, you should make sure that you're not considering that out of a paradigm of fear, that you're not going to find the one, or that you feel like you have a desire to be with more than one person. Like, really sit in contemplation of that, because the answer is really within the person, and each person is going to have a different answer. And the best possible way to get that answer is to sit in contemplation of that and meditate on it and be really honest about it, and make sure that the decision is not coming from a place of lack.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So I have a question here that someone wrote that I'll ask you. It says, are there some good tips on negotiating change in the relationship as both parties grow and change over time?
Negotiating change?
Yeah, negotiating, like how
What do you
things
think they
are
mean
going
by
to
that?
change. Maybe like how things need to change. Like how am I, like if from day to day I'm changing, right? But there may be an expectation. Like I had a conversation yesterday, and a person who's been married for several years was saying that, you know, I'm not the same person that she married, you know, and she's not the same person that I married, you know. So how do you
mm,
like find that balance, you know?
I think that in that question, there's multiple questions in that question.
Mhm.
It sounds like the person who was asking that question, or the paradigm that that question comes from, is actually like, we stopped communicating for so long that now we're at an impasse where we're like, what do we do?
Right.
You're not the same person I married, and I'm not the same person you married. But it's like,
Mhm.
you would never be in that place if throughout the time you were actually communicating with each other. And if you're
Right.
not communicating, you don't have a relationship,
Mm.
because a relationship is literally based on communication. So
Yes.
honestly, most people that I see don't communicate nearly enough. Like, they rarely even talk to each other about how they actually feel. And sometimes months can go by, like literally 6 months can go by, and the two people have not addressed an elephant in the room that's been in the room, but you want to pretend that it's not. And so in a sense, like, that question would be really personal. Are they asking how to balance that, like, incoherence between them? Because
Hmm.
if the way that you've changed and the way that I've changed has made us incoherent with each other, is that what they're getting at? Like, that they don't get
I think
along so much?
you are extremely intuitive. I mean, because you're right on what the basis of the question is. I mean, it's basically that there was an erosion within the relationship, and I think you hit on with something you keep talking about, which is super important, which is honesty, and then also communication. So honest communication is extremely important, and devoid of fear, as you also said. You know, we need to be able to speak what it is that we actually desire, even if it, and you already said this too, even if it's not just in a relationship. You just need to be able to communicate what you want and how you want it in your life, because that's the only way that you're going to receive it. So
And
yeah.
precisely, and the fear would come from, I don't want to lose this person, so I'm not going to tell them what I actually feel and what I'm actually thinking, because I'm actually attached to the idea of who I am when I'm with this person, rather than valuing my own self, is what's going on. Because when you truly value yourself, why would you fear telling someone anything about your needs or your desires? You would totally risk losing that person, because you realize that you actually value yourself and what you desire and what you need. It's only, I feel like it's only in that you would have fear because you actually are scared of saying that to the person, because you might be ashamed of what you actually want and what you actually need. You're scared of losing them, or you're scared of what would it mean about you if they left,
Right.
or some other
Absolutely.
variations.
Or some other area,
But
right?
bottom,
Yeah.
mhm. But the bottom line would be that you aren't truly respecting yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's yeah. So on my page, my family page is what I call it, 'cause I have so many other pages, but the one, my, you know, it's got my name on it. You know, that page,
Mm-hmm.
I asked a lot of questions. We talked about this, and so the
Yeah.
last question that I asked was, what can you tell us about the best relationship you've ever had the privilege of being in? That's how I worded it. What can you tell us about the
Oh
best
my God.
relationship you've ever had the privilege of being in? So how can you answer that question?
What an awesome question. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Man, where do I begin? There's so much that I can say about that. Would be the relationship that I'm currently in.
Okay.
Man, the best thing that I could like think of in terms of relationship um, advice or insight would be that, okay, so, well, there's a few things that I think they're worth mentioning. Um, First and foremost is when you find someone that you really really love, right? You
Yeah.
tend to maybe you're swooning, right? You might be swooning over that person, like you, oh my gosh, like you're really wrapped up in this idea of who this person is. And what I would say about that is try not to get swooned, because what happens is that when you're at the start of a relationship, it can bring up a lot of fear about, because you just found this amazing person, you just attracted each other, you just found each other, and that might bring up a lot of fear about, oh my god, what about the future, right? Like, what's going to happen with this relationship, because you value it so much. And when you're in that state, you are really not in the present moment, and you
Right.
are caught up in ideas that you're creating about the future, and what it means, and what's going to happen, and what does this mean about me, what does this mean about us, and really you lose touch with consciousness, with the most amount of consciousness that you can actually bring in to the moment.
Right.
And you create a fear of losing this person, and that fear actually can end up materializing in the physical, because so the best thing to do about that, what I do is I actually bring it out and I say it and we talk about it. And this is something that I love to do. I love to literally out my fears. Take your skeletons out of the closet and
Yes.
have a conversation with them and about them with someone that you trust, with your partner. Because as long as things are hidden, they control you. And the reason why you're hiding it is because you're fearful of it. And so thus it has power over you. So release the power that you're keeping in those kinds of secrets and things that you're keeping from yourself. Out it, speak openly and honestly about it, and realize that the fear was created. And allow the opportunity for your partner to support you, and allow yourself the chance to actually move on from that fear and let it go. And once you talk about it, and once you realize that you don't need to have that fear anymore, truly giving yourself the permission to let go of it. Like,
Yeah. It's like,
truly letting go of it.
yeah, some people say that there's a third mind that comes into play whenever two people are connected in whatever experience they're having. Like right now, you and I are, we're forming a third mind, you know? And so in a relationship, like what we're talking about, an intimate relationship, that is always happening. And so we need to, in order to have success, we need to know what that is. We need to know what that thing is that we're creating together, because yes, we are individuals, although we're forming to create something. And so that's also the process of having kids,
Exactly.
right? Developing a child.
Exactly.
It's the same way.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
exactly. And the whole reason why I said, don't get caught up in those ideas and like romanticizing the whole thing and creating a fantasy and like starting to plan the future, is because you want to really stay rooted in the present moment, and you don't want to lose touch with who you are. You don't want to lose touch with truly what brought you together. What brought you together was you living in that vibration state that they were living in as well, or similar to. And so you found each other there because you're both vibrating at a certain frequency. And if you take yourself out of that frequency by beginning to worry, then you really lose touch with what brought you together. And really really valuing yourself to the degree that you're not defining who you are through the relationship. You're not defining your worth through the relationship, that you continue to define your worth through your own actions and through your own beingness, completely independently of that person, so that when you're meeting your beloved, when you're meeting your loved one, you're really meeting them not from a place of need or desperation or lack, but but rather from a place of already being fulfilled, already being full. And your fulfillment is truly coming from somewhere deep inside of you. It's coming from your connection with your higher self, not from your connection with your partner. So really, when you come at someone from that vibration of already being satisfied, already being fulfilled, you're already in love. You are in love. You are being loved. You are already so happy, because not because they love you and they value you, but because you are alive, because you're allowing yourself to feel and radiate that energy from whatever is going on. Literally, I'm just breathing. I just dig the color of my shirt. I get to have a light. I get to have a phone and communicate with you. Like, those are all incredible things. And to not lose all of those things and get caught up in your mind about, oh my gosh, I have this amazing person in my life. And then all your attention goes to that. And it's like, pause and reconvene and realize that you are powerful independently of anyone, and that you meet in power.
It needs to be about the power of the self, right? And then you bring that into whatever you do. It could be in a romantic relationship or a different kind of a relationship. Some people answered that question. They said they're kids, right? And so, you know, they talked about the importance of that relationship, because I mean, you know, we're talking about romantic relationships or, you know, intimate relationships. And it also should be known that we're not just talking about male and female attraction. You know, we're talking about the wide spectrum. So I mentioned polyamory. And so there's all kinds of ways right now that we are coming into contact with each other. Through even, you know, like how you and I know each other. I mean, this is our, you know, a form of a relationship, but we're not physically, you know, with each other. We never even met each other before, but there's a benefit, there's a quality of exchange, you know, because I'm highlighting my own reality of what I love about myself and my passions. You're highlighting your reality, what you love about yourself and your passions. And there's this forming of life that comes out of that, and it's beautiful and it's attractive and it's important. And so and so I think that the way that we
So awesome.
the way that we create in the world, we really, I don't think we understand. We can't understand it. You know, I asked another question about how do you manifest? Why am I able to manifest one thing? I'm not able to manifest something else. I ask all kinds of questions on my Facebook page because I want to see people's thoughts. I want to get people going. And the most brilliant answer was, I don't think that we're ready for that right now, to even think about how we create and why we don't create something. It was like, as a human society, we're not ready for that. That's over our heads. And I thought to myself, wow, that might be actually accurate. And so it's deep, but the thing that we can really know is ourself, right? And if you empower people, that's how you work with people when they're your clients. Isn't that probably one of the most important things, is that they understand how to empower themselves?
Exactly. And not being ashamed of that, not being ashamed of your power, not masking your power or diluting your power or being sorry about it, but really embracing it. I say this thing called embrace the dragon, slay your fears, because the dragon is not meant to be feared, and it's not meant to be slayed either. It's like your shadow self. You know, your shadow self is meant to be embraced. It's meant to be understood. It has a purpose. That's why it's there. It's not meant to be, you know, like shut away. So so working with the thoughts that we have about ourselves, and really accepting and honoring ourselves. And I think that the more that we value our wellness and our health, the better our relationships will be, because healthy relationships come from healthy people, and really realizing that health is your natural state. It's not a state that you have to, at first it might feel like effortful to try to be healthy, try to get healthy. But after that initial resistance, you actually realize that health is your natural state. Being in the present moment and having more thoughtless states of mind consistently is your natural state. That's your nature, is to be relaxed and to be healthy. So truly being around people that are healthy, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, even if it feels weird at first, is so beneficial. And creating relationships with people that truly value health, that value lifestyles of seeing things as they are. And I'm really harping on this lately, is like, I think in the spiritual community, there's like this aversion to the word realistic. Like, people don't like using the word realistic, be realistic. But there's important distinctions to be made, that when you say be realistic, for example, about your physical safety, you want to be realistic about your physical safety. That's different than saying, you don't have to be realistic about who you can attract in your life. Think of the most beautiful qualities that you want in someone, or think of the most successful that you want to be. Don't be realistic in that sense, like dream big. That's not what I mean. I mean that surround yourself with people that are not in fantasy, that are not living in illusion, but that are truly greeting you in the present moment as who you are, and greeting themselves in the present moment as who they are, so that you're meeting in reality. You're meeting here right now with eye contact, with heart to heart contact, with your electromagnetic fields like syncing together, your hearts building coherence with each other. That you can only create with people that are truly present. And so I guess that's really what I mean, is surround yourself with people that have an interest in being present, and are not distracted, and are not trying to distract you through substances, through all these different kinds of things that we do to mask how we truly feel. Surround yourself with people that are not distracting themselves. That's all.
Yeah, man. When all the smoke clears, man, you know what's there. That's
Yep.
that's the truth. That's the reality. You may as well come in with that, from the beginning, right? Yeah, meeting in reality. That's really awesome. I don't know if you use that phrase or not, but that may be something that could be a phrase that you coin. It's like that's the way to build a relationship, by meeting this person in reality.
Yeah.
I had a person that I was really fond of. We never like got into an intimate relationship, but we were very close and very connected. And we were we were hugging, and we were getting ready to go to a group meditation. And she said, I'll meet you at the Creator. And that was like this incredible statement in the moment in time that she said it to me, because it meant so much. It was so important, because of what I think of and what she thinks of is very similar. And so at the same time, though, imagine if there was a relationship forming, then that's what you were moving toward, was to meet yourself at your source, was to meet each other at the source of life.
Wow.
And not in this kind of in this smokiness, like what you're talking about, and this in this hidden, the fake eyelashes, and fake hair, and whatever job you have, and you're pretending just because you make a bunch of money that you're happy about your life, and then you go home and you're complaining, and there's all this stuff that comes up from that. It's like so much junk that can be created by a person not meeting the other person in their reality. That is so important, because you can't hide.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. It's so important. You really added to the importance of it, truly, because when we meet each other in the present moment is when that's the only time you're actually meeting. That's the only time that you're actually meeting. If you're not meeting in the present moment, you're not even really meeting with that person. You're only meeting with an aspect of them that they want to show you at that moment in time. You're not actually
what they created, right? Yeah. Man, that's important. So, so we got communication, we got honesty, which are very important virtues. Can you think of some other virtues that are really important for a healthy relationship?
A virtue, like, be willing to die. be willing to let the ideas that you have about yourself perish so that you can actually grow. If you hold on to who you think you are while the other person is trying to help you, for example, to see something about yourself, if you hold on so tightly because you don't want them to see you in that way, you don't have the opportunity to crumble and rise out of that. You are constricted and tight, and you feel constricted, you feel tight, you probably feel constipated, you probably feel like you have pain in your chest, like, because it actually leads to physical symptoms when you're holding on so tightly. So what I would say is unclench and relax and allow the other person to see you, and allow yourself to be seen so that you can actually it feels so good being seen. Like, even the dark parts of you, even the parts of you that you don't want the other person to see, but you know that they see them anyway, so you're not doing such a good job at hiding it anyway. And if you simply stop hiding it, you can use that energy towards love and joy and fulfillment, and you allow the other person to truly be a channel to bring in that information to help you, and you actually you actually let go of who you think you are so that you can become more of who you actually are. You know, these thoughts that we have about ourselves are kind of like masks that we have, and we use them to not allow the other person to truly see us, because we're scared that if they really see us, they won't love us the same. And it's true, because someone who actually loves you for you will love you for you through it, and will love you no matter what. Like, truly, when someone truly loves you, they won't just be scared off because they see some aspect of you that you feel shame about, you know, because and the likely thing is that they already know, that they already feel it. And when you don't come out about it, that energy actually manifests in your relationship, like the big elephant in the room. There's that energy that's stagnant in your relationship, and it builds, because you're not addressing it. It builds, and it creates tension between you and your partner. And you're like, oh, I don't know why we aren't as close as we could be. It's because you're not actually being honest about how you actually feel, and these skeletons in your closet, you're keeping secrets from each other. And so of course you have tension between you. But if you just come out about it, then you can choose what to do about it, and you can work on it, or you can move on. Either way, you're more free than you began.
Yes, definitely. I love that. That's awesome. Let's see, quickly, somebody asked a question that we've already kind of addressed, but he says, what do you think are the purpose of relationships, romantic or friendships, either one?
Good question. The purpose of relationships, I think it's personal to your own journey. But in general, if you're asking in general, I would say my personal answer would be to realize and to bring in more consciousness. Because if you think about it, with any relationship, what you're doing is that there is an aspect of sharing of yourself. In that sharing, you bring things to light. You discover more truth. You discover more wisdom. You discover what love really means. You discover the different ways that love can manifest, and all of that is conscious. And so what I would say the purpose of relationships is to truly increase the amount of consciousness that we have on earth, if we're doing them like in a way that does that. The opposite of that, of course, would be reducing the amount of consciousness on earth and increasing the ignorance that we have. And we do that by not truly being present and being honest. That increases ignorance and reduces consciousness.
Yes, ma'am, you're absolutely. I was thinking about how we reduce consciousness a little while ago, and thinking about the power of the self, of individuals, and how we also, when we come together, of course, we become more powerful. So when we come together in truth, though, right? So I think that one thing I'll ask you is, okay, so you're a relationship coach. You're also, you said you're a Harvard teaching fellow, so that's your own business, though, the creation of the relationship coach, and your main focus is to help people become empowered. So how can people come in contact with you in that way? Like, what is it that somebody would need to do if they wanted coaching from you?
I have multiple avenues that they can get in touch with me through, but just send me a message. Yep, just send me a message on Facebook or on Instagram. My name on Instagram is, my handle on Instagram is @CoachZara_. But you can just send me a message, super simple.
Okay, so I'll post on that, I'll go back and I'll edit it, and I'll put in that information. If you send it, just go ahead and send it to me. And I can do a little short write-up, yeah, too, just to.
Absolutely. I love to do what I do. Totally. Sounds good. This conversation, there's so many golden nuggets in this conversation. Like, I'm so glad that we got together and did this. This was extremely relevant.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It's kind of cutting out for some reason. I'm not sure why, but we're not. I think somebody called me or something.
Oh. I think we're back. I think we're back on.
Okay, so this is the inaugural experience of this, and so this is so this is something I will never forget, and I'm really glad that you came on and wanted to work with me in this way, so that more people can learn and experience this. And I have lots more. I mean, we could probably seek out another opportunity to do this. I think I'll give some space though, and also just let people tell me. You know, I'll ask a question on my page, and I'll communicate more and see what kinds of questions people have, maybe that we didn't talk about, or maybe something we can revisit like next month or something like that.
Sounds good.
And I hope that this helps you to get more, you know, just to get more traction with what you want to do and what you want to create in the world. I'm sure it is. Yeah, so I'm really happy. Thank you very much for doing it. I appreciate it a great deal.
Thank you. Bye, Terrence.
Okay, bye-bye. We'll talk again.
Alrighty. Bye.